Hey folks, this is Abel James, and thanks so much for joining us on the Fat Burning Man Show, where we talk about real food and real results. Are we living in an experiment? Are the powers that be, especially in the world of health, promoting the general welfare of the people? Or are they poisoning us while taking away our freedom? Instead of promoting peace and giving us answers, the controllers seem content to create more confusion. So, to help us find truth and follow evidence-based practices, returning to the show today is fan favorite Dr. Cate Shanahan. Dr. Cate went to Cornell and is trained in family medicine with a background in biochemistry and genetics. She's authored 3 books, including The Fatburn Fix, Deep Nutrition, and Food Rules. And Dr. Cate has created nutrition programs for many professional sports teams, including the LA Lakers, and is credited with helping spark the bone broth and collagen craze. On today's show with Dr. Cate, we're talking about the toxic and inflammatory effects of vegetable oil, why peanuts may not be quite as bad as we thought, the real culprit behind type 2 diabetes, the link between vegetable oil and sugar, and tons more. Now, before we get there, here's an email that came in from Tom, who recently watched the previous episode with Dr. Cate Shanahan, which you guys should check out. Just go to fatburningman.com and type it into the search bar. And he got in touch with this question following up on that show. Tom says, "Hi, Abel. Expeller pressed canola oil. I noticed it's in Beyond Burgers. Is it in your diet plan for vegetarians? Should I keep Beyond Burgers in my diet? I used to have seriously high uric acid levels. Long story, but meatless seemed to help. I'm 6'4" and looking to be at 222 pounds. I got flab to torch and burn, so I will order your offer. I loved your interview with Dr. Cate. That is how I found you today. Peace, Tom." Hey, Tom, thank you for getting in touch. I'm really glad that you kind of identified the goals that you want to reach, because for a lot of people, if you don't have that, it's very hard to stay on track and find your groove. And it takes long-term discipline, to get there and especially to stay there. So good on you for that. And also some great questions. Let's get into it here. A lot of people have been asking about, the vegan craze, and there's a lot of kind of vegan propaganda going around these days. I think a lot of it is because, these fake meat companies have a lot of money behind them, a lot of big investors, a lot of familiar names and faces. But anyway, us poor meat eaters have to fend for ourselves and watch out for each other. So canola oil, stay away from the GMO stuff. We know that that's bad. We know that the vast majority of vegetable oil out there, industrial oil, is just chemical schlop. It's not fit to be food. And you'll learn why in today's show. It's so important to focus on healthy fats in the true sense of the word, not these ridiculous industrial vegetable and seed oils. One of the very first videos I ever did for the Fat Burning Man channel back in the day, almost 10 years ago now, was me driving around in my old Mercedes that was running on vegetable oil, like old Friolator oil, which, as it turns out, can be a wonderful fuel for cars. But I explained as I'm driving around why I wouldn't put it in my body, why I would not eat this stuff. And so if you look up how it's made in reference to canola oil, usually the first video that'll come up is from the TV show How It's Made. And you can skip the first couple minutes, but basically just go in and watch how canola oil and vegetable oil and seed oil are made, because you see these chemical solvent washes, you see sodium hydroxide, a lot of these different substances that your food is taking a bath in. They're all toxic, and it's no wonder that when we eat these things, especially as the majority of our diet, when you measure from calories or just you look at restaurant oils and prepared foods, most of them are made with these extremely low quality industrial oils. Take a quick look at it. You'll see how appetizing it is. When it comes to expeller pressed oils, some of them can kind of be all right, but me personally, I stay away from canola oil for the most part. And you'll hear which fats we focus on in today's show and why you should. But just long story short, I'll get into the Beyond Burgers thing too. When I was a teenager, I was a vegetarian for a time, actually for years, on and off, vegan, vegetarian. I tried a lot of different things, and I ate a lot of fake meat burgers, enough for a lifetime. And it made me kind of sick, to be honest. When you look at the ingredients here, I've got the ingredients of the plant-based burger patties that say that there's soy-free, gluten-free, and no GMO. So right there, that's better than a lot of the other veggie burgers out there. I'll say that. No food is perfect 100% of the time. All foods kind of fall on the spectrum, and it's a double-edged sword. So let's dig in a little bit on Beyond Burgers. They've got water, pea protein isolate, expeller pressed canola oil. Right there, I would put the product back on the shelf just because we stay away from canola and rapeseed oil. You've got cellulose from bamboo, so you're eating some wood there. We've got natural flavors, maltodextrin, yeast extract. So we got a mosquito in here. Yeast extract, basically another name for MSG. MSG hijacks your brain, essentially, your neurochemistry, starts firing everything off so that you think that food tastes better than it actually does. And it for a lot of people, including me, will kick off massive cravings for the next few hours or even the next few days. And anyone who's had cheap fast food kind of knows that buzzy taste feeling thing in your mouth that you get with this MSG and yeast extract stuff. So be careful of that. That can really set off later cravings for a lot of people. You've got sunflower oil in there as well. It kind of sounds healthy. We'll dive into why it's not a bit here today. Gum arabic, citrus extract, ascorbic acid, beet juice extract, modified food starch. I mean, this isn't the worst veggie burger I've ever seen in my life. I've eaten worse when I was less educated about health and didn't really know any better. Boca burgers growing up. Now you can find all sorts of different bleeding fake meat burgers all over the place. But I stick with the real thing. You know what? I don't like the fake and bacon. I've tried that. I've tried the fake meat, fake egg, almost everything. I rarely do it anymore because I just can't stand it. And I love real duck eggs, real pastured eggs from the backyard chickens or game meats. And we love steaks and the old school bone broth. And I love eating the weird marrow out of the bones and the stuff around the joints and the cartilage. It turns out all of this is very ancestral, very good for us when you eat nose to tail. You can get a lot of nutrients that way. When you're eating fake meat Beyond Burgers, that's just an approximation of something that is actually quite good for you. And also, just a quick word on, it's easy to think that when you're only eating vegetarian or vegan, that it's a very virtuous thing and that no animals are dying and that you're saving a lot of animal lives. That is true when you look at the industrial world. However, a lot of meat eaters, especially in our community, focus on the well-being of the animals. We literally had backyard cows in New Hampshire with my family that lived with us for a while. When you try to cut animals out of the equation, animal agriculture and all of that, you're chopping out a huge part of the food chain. When you think about North America and America, the amount of bison that used to be here transformed the land. Now that they're not here, the land is quite different. And when you apply all of these monocrops that rely on chemicals, that rely on petroleum, that rely on all of this chemical processing, that rely on killing off all of the pests, right, that come in and eat the crops, like canola and rapeseed, for example, or like even rice that's being grown, or a lot of these other big crops, corn especially, they're killing many, many animals. Insects, they're killing foxes, they're killing birds, to make sure that you can get that GMO corn cheap in your veggie burger or what have you, or so that you can get that cheap vegetable oil that's in your processed and restaurant food. So it's really the industrial anti-nature system that we should all rally against, meat eaters and non-meat eaters alike. So anyway, I really appreciate your question about these veggie burgers, because I get so many questions about this. And please listen to the rest of this show and the other shows with Dr. Kate, because she really digs into why you should not fuel primarily with these low-quality, cheap industrial oils. So how are you feeling recently? Do you want to get in touch? I'm out there. You know, we've all been locked down for a while now, and I've had a great time connecting with you. So if you're out there, just don't forget to share the show with anyone who might like it. Follow me at Abel James or Fat Burning Man on all the different social media platforms, including the new ones like Parlay or Parler, depending on how you say it, MeWe, all the other ones that are popping up. Wherever you are, try looking for me. And if I'm not there, shoot me a line and say, hey, there's this cool new social media network or platform that is not censored, where real people can express freedom of thought and freedom of speech and the rest of it. We're all looking for each other. So if you're out there, don't be shy. Come connect anytime. You can always find me at fatburningman.com. If you sign up for the free newsletter, then I'm very responsive with people who email me on the email list. So sign up for the free newsletter over at fatburningman.com, and I'll send you some free meal plans and delicious recipes on the house. And if you're in the US and you want to boost your daily nutrients, which can be more challenging than ever these days, don't forget about wildsuperfoods.com. We've got plenty of new things there with more announcements coming soon. This is our small family company, but we've got a high quality source of vitamin D with its cofactors. We've got vitamin C. We have Future Greens, which is concentrated fruits and veg, kind of like a whole food multivitamin. We have collagen cocoa, which you can have hot or cold. After I'm done recording today, I'm definitely going to have my hot cup of chocolate collagen cocoa. It's so delicious. And I hope you like it too. That's all at wildsuperfoods.com. When you sign up for Subscribe and Save, not only do you get a big discount, but you also get our group coaching, the Fat Burning Tribe, included as part of your subscription. Now, if you're international, I know there are a lot of you out there. We need your support more than ever, but we're going to keep going. It's pretty rough out there, but we definitely love connecting with you. And one of the ways you can help support this show, even for just a few bucks a month, is by checking us out on Patreon. Look up Abel James on Patreon. You can get some of my music videos. You get access to our coaching community over on our Discord channel. You can find all of that as well at fatburningman.com/tipjar. fatburningman.com/tipjar. Very soon we'll be accepting donations in cryptocurrency as well. Very cool. And for a limited time, when you sign up as a supporter on our Patreon channel, then you also get free access as a download to my #1 international bestseller in humor, Designer Babies Still Get Scabies. As an ebook, you get that for a download. I also give you the audiobook for free, which I definitely had a lot of fun with. So you can find all of that by looking up Abel James on Patreon. All right, on to the show with Dr. Cate Shanahan. We're talking about the toxic and inflammatory effects of vegetable and seed oils, why peanuts might not be so very bad as we once thought, the real culprit behind type 2 diabetes, why the questionable fat sources in our diet are changing the very composition of our bodies, what to do about the low-carb flu, or the keto flu as some people call it, how to train your body to burn body fat, the link between vegetable oil and sugar, and tons more. Let's go hang out with Dr. Cate. I hope you like this one. Welcome back, folks. Dr. Cate Shanahan is a board-certified family physician and author of Deep Nutrition and her newest book, The Fatburn Fix, which teaches people how to boost energy, end hunger, and lose weight by using body fat for fuel. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Cate.
Thank you so much for having me back on, Abel James.
Absolutely. Obviously, we have so much to talk about. The Fatburn Fix is full of dog ears. One of the reasons for that is because you're talking about how toxic vegetable oils are in particular, which make up the majority of the fats that we eat in America and increasingly the world. Yet a lot of people, especially because words are so confusing these days, think that vegetable oil might be a healthy thing. Let's talk about why it's not.
Yeah, so vegetable oil is stuff like soy oil and canola oil, right? And these are unstable fats. They're unstable fatty acids. And when they're unstable, they have a tendency to break down and promote inflammation. And I knew they were bad for us when I wrote Deep Nutrition. I have a whole chapter in there in the new edition where I talk about the inflammatory effects on the brain and all the different ways that they make it hard to have a healthy functioning brain, and how much better you're going to feel when you get them out of your life. But even still, I really didn't have a clue as to how much they were disrupting our metabolism on a global scale. And so that's what the Fatburn Fix laid out, because I myself was shocked at some of the research that's out there that nobody is talking about, that is this humongous series of smoking guns showing these things damage our mitochondria, they damage so many things about our metabolism. And so I broke the metabolism out into 4 different parts to explain how getting vegetable oil out of your life, even if you really didn't do much of anything else, is going to make you so much healthier and change your life.
And you don't notice it when you're eating it necessarily. That's one of the most pernicious things about these vegetable oils, is they kind of sneak into organic products, healthy products. They don't necessarily taste like they're bad for you right away. They don't smell rancid necessarily. Oh
goodness, no.
So, and they're used that way because they are a kind of cheap, benign filler ingredient that you can profit a lot from, but your body doesn't actually recognize as food and can't use for energy effectively.
Exactly. So there's a ingredient list for human body fat, and vegetable oil is not on the list. So it's kind of like we are living in a humongous experiment. We are literally living in an experiment because over the past 3 generations, we've taken normal food and normal human body fat, and we've swapped out the fats in such a way that we basically now, our bodies have oils in them that are from plants, plant seeds.
Yeah.
We have living humans are made out of plant fat to a large degree. We're supposed to be made out of human fat. So it almost sounds kind of like a science fiction sort of thing. Oh, okay, well, we have plant fat in our bodies. Okay, that's weird. But what does that mean? What does it do to us? So I'm specifically talking about, let's say you're a 200-pound person. You should have about 1.5 pounds of polyunsaturated fat in your body fat. If you had the normal diet that had a normal fatty acid profile with like mostly saturated and monounsaturated fats, now that person who weighs 200 pounds has 15 to 20 pounds of these seed oils, these polyunsaturated fatty acids. So it's at least 10 times more than we're supposed to have, which is more than our bodies are designed to have. And that's the reason that when you look around, you see so many people who are overweight, because that fact traps people in a metabolic downward spiral of worsening and worsening health. And it's what happens when you do that. The result of this experiment is that people now, as we age, it's normalized to become overweight, to become diabetic, or to get hypertension. It's normalized to have older folks have memory problems, and it's almost normalized to get cancer. I mean, it's like 1 in 7 women now will get breast cancer in their lifetimes. When I was in medical school, it was high, but it was less than 1 in 10. So it keeps increasing. So we're living in this bizarre experiment where nobody's noticed, but our bodies now are made out of this totally different composition because they've taken away the fats that were in our food. They've told us they were bad for us, so we don't really look for them. Anyway, we're kind of glad they're gone. We look for low-fat yogurt and low-fat sour cream. And what does that even mean? Low-fat sour cream? Low-fat cream? Cream is fat. So These are non-foods, and it's so hard now to find yogurt. I challenge anybody to find a flavored yogurt that is not fat-free, or at least low-fat, that has full fat in it. It's very difficult. So that is the way that the experiment has been, that we've been entered into the experiment. And unless you're consciously looking for these seed oils and avoiding them, you're in the experiment, and there's no escape for you until you get them out of your diet. You start looking at every label and you start accepting the reality that we do need to eat animal fats, or at least more of the high saturated, monounsaturated plant-based fats, which are few and far between. So that's a very difficult thing to do. And that's why for, ever humanity didn't really subsist in too many areas of the world. We could not subsist on a plant-based diet because there were not enough of the right kinds of fats available to us.
Yeah. So we're all kind of already eating Soylent Green. Just we don't realize it because it doesn't look like green schlop or whatever it was, right? It's built into all the restaurant foods, the packaged foods, and all the rest of it, it seems.
Exactly. It's like invasion of the body snatchers, but for food.
Yeah.
All of our food has been placed with stuff that is actually going to take over our bodies. And that's one of the shocking things that I discovered as I dove deeper and deeper into how the vegetable affects our metabolism. And to continue this kind of sci-fi discussion. So we've had plant fats replacing our normal animal body fats. And what that's done is it's built this jacket of toxic body fat that we're kind of trapped in, and this jacket of fat is invisible to our brain. So our brain doesn't know that we have all this weight that we're carrying around. And it also directs us to go to the doctor to get medications for prescriptions, because you get heartburn or you get high blood sugars that dehydrate you and you need to be on all kinds of diabetes medications, or you get heart palpitations and somebody notices your blood pressure's high, so you get started on blood pressure medications. That is a result of this jacket of toxic body fat made out of these wrong kind of fatty acids. It's not your family history. It's not genetics. It's this jacket of toxic body fat, which also, by the way, directs you to what food to eat, because it takes over your appetite.
Yeah.
It takes over your appetite so that you have an unnatural and irresistible craving for foods that are going to raise your blood sugar. That goes way beyond the normal level of what willpower could control. And even beyond, like we all talk about sugar being bad because it's addicting and you can overeat it because it's addicting, gives you pleasure, right? Addicting, it's like the hedonistic aspect of sugar, lighting up the dopamine centers in our brain and giving us pleasure. So we want that again. But what I discovered is that something way more powerful is going on, and that is your brain is addicted to sugar for energy. And that means that without enough sugar in your bloodstream, your brain starts making you angry and irritable and so hungry that you obsess about food, and you'll just grab whatever's around you or drive through any kind of drive-through that you can see, even though you know this stuff is bad, even though you know your doctor told you got to lose weight or you want to lose weight, even though you've already lost some weight and you don't want to blow your diet. At some point, that lack of energy is going to overpower your willpower, because it's inhuman thing to expect that a brain dependent on sugar, lots of sugar in the bloodstream, is going to be able to power its way through a lack of energy. The brain cannot live. You'll get a stroke if you don't get enough energy. And I'm serious. I mean, you will literally get a stroke. Some people have headaches. They have migraine headaches. We found that people who have very bad migraines have the same kinds of little white spots showing up on the MRI of their brain as people who have had multiple little tiny strokes.
Wow.
It is the same pathology, because it's not that they weren't getting enough blood. It's that the blood that was arriving didn't have enough sugar, because their brain, which should be able to sustain on ketones or even certain fatty acids, that cannot sustain on those fuels and must have sugar. So that's like the most the craziest thing that I had to come to understand. Now, how is that going to affect my patients? And what it's going to do is, what it really means is that until you get you're really not ready to completely even eliminate carbohydrates. So a couple years ago, I was like, oh, just go on a keto diet. But people would come back and they'd be like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, well, so something's wrong here. Let's figure it out. But I couldn't figure it out until I came to this understanding of what's really going on, the big picture of your metabolism, that is that there's different degrees of metabolic damage. And that's kind of what I really came to understand, is that, yeah, some people are, if they're young enough and their metabolism hasn't taken them far enough down this road towards diabetes, which is where all the metabolic disease ends up as type 2 diabetes. Eventually, on your way, you'll have lots of other complications. If you have gotten far enough down that road, your brain needs an abnormal amount of sugar for fuel. And trying to just abruptly take that away is going to deplete your body's glycogen stores very quickly, and you're going to feel terrible. And this is what drives the low carb flu or the keto flu in some people. And other people have the symptoms manifest in other ways, like more emotionally, where they just start to feel like hopeless, or just that they're super tired, right? They don't have the typical flu aches, but they're just like, oh God, I just don't have the energy to go exercise. I know I just bought a gym membership. It's costing me all this money. I've only gone twice, but they just feel physically tired. And that's not that they have willpower, and it's not that they're, not good exercisers. It's that their metabolism has created this state where, and when you just cut your food, even if you're not going a low carb diet, if you just cut your calories, that can bring your blood sugar down. And so that gave me such incredible insight. That understanding gave me such incredible insight that it's really helped me design a much, much more effective weight loss plan for all my patients, because I don't tell them to cut out all their carbs. I just help them understand which kind of carbs they need if their metabolism is that damaged. And actually, even like the first thing that I do is assess how damaged is your metabolism, because maybe you're young and you have a lot of weight to lose, but your metabolism isn't that damaged. So you can jump into some of these other things that help you burn your body fat more quickly. Mm-hmm. But maybe you're not. So that's what the assessment is. And I built that into the Fatburn Fix book. So that everybody can understand whether or not they're ready to burn fat, right away and cut carbs right away, or if there's other things that they need to do to kind of remediate their body fat, because that's almost like literally what it is. Remediation is a toxicology term, that when there's a toxin in the environment, you have to remediate it. Mm-hmm. Well, what we're remediating is your body fat. We're getting that plant fat out of there from all those seed oils. We're getting the polyunsaturated fatty acid content to come down from way too high to less high. And as it comes down, you're going to be more capable of, actually losing weight quickly. So I don't even really want people to start losing weight if they're that metabolically damaged,
right,
until they're ready to lose weight.
So it sounds to me, vegetable oil in particular, when you're eating it, and this is kind of an oversimplification, you eat it and then it gives you dysfunctional cells that you really have to work to get out of your system. And what these dysfunctional cells do are they make it harder to access your stored fat, and they make it less likely that you're going to use fat as a fuel, even the healthy fuel that you have, so that you're more and more reliant on sugar. But it's not sugar that's the only or even most important problem there.
Yes, that is exactly correct. So I like what you said about dysfunctional cells, right? So it builds up in your body fat over time, so that over time, when you've eaten your last meal, and now you're going to be burning your body fat because all those calories are put into storage or somewhere useful, you release that body fat, and it doesn't give your cells the energy that they need. And so that they need to prevent themselves from, dysfunction or dying, they have to request more sugar from the bloodstream. And so that's why the very first sign of a metabolic problem is hypoglycemia. And so hypoglycemia, maybe your listeners probably know that, but it literally means low blood sugar, but it's really not tested when most doctors diagnose it. Like, you'll go to the doctor and describe these symptoms that you get when you're hungry of, headache or palpitations or shakiness. And they'll say, oh, that's just your hypoglycemia, meaning your blood sugar just must be getting low. Go eat something. But they never have tested their blood sugar at that time. And my experience, their blood sugar isn't actually low. It's just that their brain has a brand new idea of what a normal blood sugar level is, which is higher than the normal human blood sugar. And they are already down that path towards getting diabetes because their set point for blood sugar is no longer normal. And everybody wants to understand diabetes and avoid type 2 diabetes. I'm only talking about type 2, right? This whole show. Not type 1, different diseases.
Yeah, different things.
Unfortunate that they have the same names, but they're very different. So if we want to understand diabetes and treat it properly and avoid it, we have to talk about it differently. It is not a disease of high blood sugar. It is a disease of needing too much blood sugar because your body fat's not functioning and not giving you energy. And as a result of that, you get insulin resistance. And the reason that happens is kind of tragic. The reason that you get insulin resistance is because your brain wants a higher blood sugar level than what your pancreas is understanding is a blood sugar level. Your pancreas is still stuck with the set point you were born with, which is the proper settings of, somewhere between 65 and 85 fasting, and want to try and get it down as fast as possible after you eat something. But your brain now has this new idea. So your brain is hardwired to the pancreas, to the liver, to say, pump out more sugar for me. I need more sugar. I don't care what you got to do. I don't care if we have to, pull out every last scrap of glycogen from the liver. I don't care, Mr. Liver, if you have to. That's how we should talk to our liver, with respect, Mr. Liver, because it does a lot for us.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have to start converting muscle into sugar by the process of gluconeogenesis, but that requires breaking down protein, and the biggest store we have of that is muscle. So the brain is telling the liver to do this, to raise our blood sugar. Meanwhile, the pancreas is very unhappy because the pancreas knows that, well, maybe the brain wants a fasting blood sugar level of 90 or 95 or 100. The pancreas is like, this is no good. This just won't do. I need to push out more insulin. And the insulin tells the liver the opposite, that you got to stop this gluconeogenesis, cut it out immediately. We've got too much blood sugar, and we got to start building fat. We got to start turning some of that extra sugar in the bloodstream into fat. So the liver is getting these conflicting messages. And because the brain is in charge, it's literally hardwired with the vagus nerve, it wins the argument every time. And so the first place that a human being develops insulin resistance is in their liver, because the liver is being told to ignore insulin by the brain. And the poor pancreas is like, but too much sugar is going to kill me eventually. And this, that down the road, that does happen. And what happens is, by the time somebody's had type 2 diabetes for 20, 30, 40 years, they start to get type 1 diabetes because the high blood sugar level actually starts killing their beta cells, which are the cells that produce insulin. And then that person is really in trouble because they are type 1 and type 2 diabetic, meaning they don't make insulin and they don't respond to insulin. And so when you inject insulin, it goes to the liver first. So you have to inject these massive amounts of insulin, as opposed to when the pancreas produces insulin, it goes to the whole body first. So it's just that you become a person with a very short lifespan. I mean, it's tragic, but people who are type 2 diabetic who start needing insulin, they're in and out of the hospital. They get fluid retention. They get what looks like heart failure. It's really just fluid overload. They start getting, kidney failure. I mean, it's not a pretty way to live, and it's very, very difficult.
So it sounds to me like the whole Western theory of aging is more damage to our mitochondria, to the way that our system is able to regulate sugar or not, to the different organs fighting against each other. This is a cascade of effects that comes from damage, not necessarily just getting older.
Yes, absolutely. And it's preventable and it's reversible, to the extent that you're not dead. There's a lot of it that will improve, even if you're already a type 2 diabetic, even if you're already on insulin. A lot of people are on insulin just because they have a high carb diet.
Right.
But now, if you are a type 2 diabetic and you have a high carb diet and you're on insulin, you're not somebody, in my experience, who's going to do super well just with jumping right into some of these hacks, like keto diet. That's kind of a hack.
Yep.
Intermittent fasting. It's great, but it's a hack, and you might not be ready for it. So you might need to build your meals very perfectly in order to be able to have them keep enough sugar in your bloodstream. You're getting enough fat so that your brain and the rest of your body now can use this healthy fat that your cells can actually use for fuel to last you to your next meal. So you don't have to snack in between. And so you're not desperately hungry by your next meal that you are driven to overeat out of extreme overactive hunger. So that's kind of like what my 2 phases of the Fatburn Fix are all about. Like the first phase is broken into 2 parts because it's the first the baby step. It's a baby steps part of the first phase, and then an accelerated part of the first phase. But both of those are designed to get you to that point where you're ready to cut calories, and then you will be ready to lose weight, like significantly, right? You'll probably lose a little bit of weight in the first phase, especially if you're really overweight, just by cutting out snacking and, starting to eat some healthy fats will naturally suppress your appetite, give you more energy, you'll be more active, but you're not really ready to focus on losing weight or go for that, I want to lose a pound a week. No, don't even think that way until you are able to, go between meals without being hungry, until your hunger is suppressed. And so that's what the book helps you assess those things when you're ready to move from that one prep phase 1 to phase 2. It's only got 2 phases, but the first phase has like a super slow-mo phase called the baby steps phase, where that's what people need to learn. Is they need to learn, okay, I need to have a little bit of these carbohydrates that get into my bloodstream slowly. So I cleverly call them slow digesting carbohydrates, because they digest slowly and they just slowly raise your blood sugar without causing a sugar spike or an insulin spike. And that's key. And so that's part of what you have to learn if you're one of these, really very metabolically damaged folks that's already got type 2 diabetes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes even if you just have type 1 diabetes, you still need to go through that very slow-mo phase of a plan before you're really ready to cut calories. And I think one of the points that, maybe you noticed, hopefully you noticed in the book, was that I want to reframe the whole weight loss argument that, weight loss doctors, we want to please our patients. We want to give our patients that number on the scale coming down, mm-hmm. like day by day, if we could, or at least week by week. But that's the wrong thing for some people. And we need to identify who's ready for that and who's not, so that we can treat the people who are not ready for it in a whole different way than we have been treating them.
Yeah. And, it's one thing that came to mind in reading through your book is a lot of people are just like, I'm all keto. And that's been going on for a few years now. And it's like, when people say that, I'm like, what do you mean? Because that kind of means nothing, right? And then the term dirty keto has emerged, which makes more sense, right? Where it's like you differentiate between, okay, there's a clean way of doing this, and then there's a dirty way of doing it. And the way that's marketed and sold by most of the books and products and what have you, that's dirty and it's not real and it doesn't work. mostly because it's built on the faulty pillar of whatever fat instead of quality fat.
Huge. And the other thing that happens in the dirtier versions of keto is that they again, we want to give people what they want. Well, people want snacks and they want something sweet tasting. Both snacking and just the sweetness, the taste of the sensation of sweet itself block your fat burn, block your body's ability to use your body fat for fuel. And so you need to understand that, like, and use that in moderation, if at all. Like I say that there really is no such thing as a healthy snack. If anything has calories, then you have the potential for blocking what you were doing, which is healthy, which is burning your body fat, and just getting yourself further down that unhealthy road to diabetes. So I really think that the emphasis on, just have not to mention that, what doctors learn is frequent small meals, right? Because that will regulate your blood sugar. I mean, didn't we learn in medical school that your pancreas and glucagon and insulin regulate your blood sugar, not meal frequency? Like there's that massive disconnect, and that's just horrible, horrible advice. But we learn it and regurgitate it because that's what we're told to do. But beyond that, even just the idea of, a healthy snack, right? Even if you're like, well, you're bored. It's just a few calories. It's just a handful of nuts. You're okay for sure, but you need to know that the fact is that's blocking. You might have been burning some body fat just now, which is what you want to do. If you want to lose weight, you cannot lose a pound if you're not burning your body fat. So I don't care if you're burning the fat from those nuts, and technically that's a keto thing. You're not burning your body fat, and therefore you are not producing ketones.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did want to ask you about that kind of surprised me is peanut and peanut oil in particular have been really attacked by some people in the alternative health communities, no matter which one you're in. Whereas in your book, peanuts are differentiated from these very toxic vegetable oils because it's kind of unique in a different way. So I would love for you just to talk about peanuts in particular, why they might be a pro or a con for various people.
Okay, so peanuts have been maligned a lot like dairy has for a variety of reasons, and some of them apply to a few people, but most of them don't. So one of the reasons is that it's a legume, and people are not supposed to eat legumes. Can you tell me why?
Right.
There's no reason. It's just stated. Well, legumes are bad. They've got anti-nutrients. Yeah, every single plant has anti-nutrients because it doesn't want to be eaten. Some have more than others because they're seeds, but we've bred these seeds to be more like healthy, tasty, delicious, and not upsetting our stomachs when we eat them. So we're good there. I mean, if you're going to cut out peanuts, you have to cut out almonds by the same logic. Right. And I don't think anybody in their right mind would say almonds are not healthy. So that's one reason. And another reason is this fungus, right? So Aspergillus fungus can grow in peanuts. Aspergillus fungus can grow on every plant. And it's just been promoted in the literature more than anywhere else because it was first discovered in peanut butter, because peanut butter is one of these products that's stored for a long time, right, in a nutritious form, so that Aspergillus fungus can kind of continue to grow and the toxin that it produces can continue. But it's not like unique to peanuts. It's just that it was first discovered there. So that's also a non-issue. I mean, if you're eating junk food, like junky peanut butter, then it's more likely to have more Aspergillus, right? Just because.
And vegetable oil.
Stuff. Yes, it's very likely to have some kind of vegetable oil because that dilutes it down. So you shouldn't be eating that if you care about your health. So that's reason number 2. And then reason number 3 pertains to the oil part of the peanut, because compared to things like coconut oil and avocado and even almond oil, it has relatively more polyunsaturated fatty acids. So it's kind of on the borderline, right there. I mean, honestly, it truly is on the borderline. But the reason that I still call it good is because it's super oily. And so it's easy to get these fats out of the peanut. You don't have to do a lot of harsh heat. Or chemicals. And when you don't have to do those things, that means that the oil is pretty good to go once you've just extracted it. You don't then have to refine, bleach, and deodorize it. And it's the refining, bleaching, and deodorizing that can take something that would have been healthy, at least a little bit healthy. It might have still been high in PUFA and not something that you would want to cook with or eat a lot of.
Yeah.
But then it becomes toxic. It becomes something that either contains toxins or contains something that's going to become toxic the minute you eat it, and it starts interacting with the other foods in your stomach. So that part of what I just talked about, like the refining, the bleaching, and the deodorizing, that's also what makes the difference between the sunflower seed oil. Sunflower seeds are healthy, but the oil that's extracted, they generally have to refine, bleach, and deodorize it. And those steps strip it of anything in there that was good, the minerals and the vitamins and the antioxidants, and they break down some of the polyunsaturated fatty acids to become toxic compounds. And I did talk about this quite a bit in Deep Nutrition, and I don't talk about it too much in the Fatburn Fix, but these toxic compounds are, I believe, the number one source of carcinogens. Like these vegetable oils they contain carcinogens left and right. You do any kind of a testing on a vegetable oil or a product made with vegetable oil, and you're going to find some of the most toxic compounds known to man in that product, like 4-hydroxynonenal and 4-hydroxyhexanol and malinaldehyde. The compounds have very long and beautiful names if you're into chemistry, but the fact is that they are toxic to your cells, and many of them are carcinogenic, and they damage DNA and should not be consumed by pregnant women or anyone wanting to conceive a child.
But they're 80% of our fat calories in the U.S., right?
They are 80% of the average person's fat calories, unless you're going out of your way to avoid them, right?
Yeah.
And so for many people, that translates to 30% of their calories or 40%, which, I mean, that's 40% of your calories containing massive amounts of highly toxic compounds. And I think the problem is that there's just so many of them.
Right.
It's so many different toxic compounds that if you're just looking for a given one, you'll be like, oh, well, I just eat like a half a gram of that a day, or maybe, a couple micrograms. But you add them all up and you're eating, gram amounts of carcinogens. And that doesn't happen in any other food.
Yeah. And it's not like you're gaining anything other than eating kind of like cheap or highly marked up food. There's no benefit to you in eating these oils. It's only as a cheap filler, really, to make more money for corporations.
Yes, it is. It's because, not to. This is where I feel it's just so important to get talking about like the metabolism, right? Because if your metabolism is damaged, you don't care. You are not thinking like a rational human being. You are thinking like a 4-year-old baby that needs a feeding. I mean,
survival mode, right? Because your brain thinks you're starving.
Yes, exactly. And so if you're coming home after a long day of work and you're driving by those Golden Arches and you smell those fries and you're like, okay, I can go home and figure out what on earth I'm going to cook, and I don't even really like vegetables. And then that smell, guess which one is going to win? I mean, it's no contest. So it's not about willpower. It's about fixing your metabolism and getting you out of that state where you're not a 4-month-old hungry, crying infant needing its McDonald mama. You're a grown up and you are looking forward to actually eating some vegetables because now you know how to make them taste good. And with those healthy fats, that's the energy that you need. It's not the carb.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people would be surprised by, especially once you get a little bit of that dysfunction out of the way, you clean up the way your body's working so that it's a little bit more efficient of a metabolism, how you have a completely different relationship with not only food, but your life in general, because you're just less reliant on the outside world to fuel you, in air quotes.
Totally. I mean, these are the fats that make people sugar addicts. And if you're a sugar addict, you might think it's just that you were raised this way or that you just have a sweet tooth, but it's not that. It's way bigger than that. And I know because if you remember from Deep Nutrition, Abel, I wrote about how I was a serious sugar addict and I had a serious sweet tooth so bad that when I was working as a locums doctor in North Dakota, I drove every weekend. Like the highlight of my week was getting a Starbucks mocha frappuccino.
Oh my gosh.
Because but there wasn't one. I only did it once a week because there wasn't one within 100 miles of the town I was working in. Wow. So I got in my car and I drove the 100 miles to go to Fargo where there was a Starbucks, and I stood in line praying that there was mocha frappuccino. And I remember one time I went and the lady in front of me ordered the last one.
No.
So that was my whole week was blown. And, even in spite of that, you would think that would be a flag to an adult, especially a doctor, like, you have a problem with sugar, Missy.
Yeah.
If that was a highlight of your week and now you're like completely discombobulated, which I was, by not having it. But no, I mean, I was in total denial of my addiction. But that is the thing that I'm relating to when my patients are telling me that they really just want something sweet. So I think it's okay to do that every once in a while if you're in control, but you have to wean yourself off, and there's a process to go through. You can't just cut it either. I've never seen that work. The people that successfully cure their sweet tooth do what I accidentally just stumbled into doing, and that's you wean yourself off. You create plan. It becomes a project, and you are the project manager of the cut down on your sugar and then stop eating it project. And that is a life-saving project that you can embark on.
Yeah, it is. And we all need to be a little bit more honest about that, especially during times like these when a lot of people are going to those comfort foods and sweet foods. But we're almost out of time. I really do highly recommend not only the Fatburn Fix, but Deep Nutrition as well. Dr. Cate, what's the best place to find you, your books, and your work?
So my website is drcate.com, and it's drcate.com. It's not doctor spelled out, and it's Kate with a C. That's the best place to go. I'm also on social media, but from drcate.com, you can get to my Facebook, my Twitter, my YouTube, and I'm even on Instagram and Reddit now. Oh.
Wow. Look at you go.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot. And I'm not even a doctor on the other side, and I know it's a lot of work. Well, Dr. Cate, thank you so much for your work. It's very much needed right now. And all of you listening, please read her books and help support her. Dr. Cate, thanks so much for coming back on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to meet with you.
Hey folks, this is Abel James, creator of the Fat Burning Man Show and New York Times best-selling author. And this is just a quick little video I wanted to make for you about probiotic spheres from our family company, Wild Superfoods. And it's a blend of 8 probiotics for a healthy microbiome. And what we're looking at here are these tiny, cute little pills that are spherical and designed to be to withstand going down your gullet and then into your digestive system with the probiotics intact to be delivered at the right place at the right time. And so it's a blend of a number of different probiotics. Another thing you can do with this is crush it up and use these probiotics to get other ferments going and yogurts and things like that. We've done many experiments with these probiotics. And one quick note, you want to throw them in the fridge when you get them. They're going to come specially packed so that they don't get too hot. You want to make sure you don't leave them out in the sun. They're sensitive to getting too hot. But you know, these have been a reliable source for us of probiotics over the years, and we hope that they are for you as well. We're really proud of what we do over at Wild Superfoods. So from Allison, from me, my mom, the dog Bailey, and the whole team, we appreciate you, and we can't wait to hear from you about how you like our new products, as well as the longtime foundational supplements like probiotic spheres, mega omegas, future greens, vitamin D stack, and many of the others that we have coming your way. So this is Abel. Drop a line anytime. We appreciate you, and thanks again. Well, hey there, listener. This is Abel one more time, and I just want to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Fat Burning Man Show. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you might be listening to or watching this show right now. And if you have a second, please leave me a quick review for the Fat Burning Man Show. I read every single one of them, and every time you leave a review, it gives us a little boost in the rankings, and that helps other people find this show. And if you can think of someone else who might enjoy and benefit from this free show, please take a second to share it with a friend or a family member. And if they're like, what is this Fat Burning Man thing? That's a really silly name. You could be like, you're right, but here's the deal. We've recorded over 250 episodes of the Fat Burning Man Show with thought leaders in health from all over the world. And so far, we've won 4 awards, hitting #1 in health in more than 8 countries internationally. We have more than 30 million downloads already, but we're just getting started. I can't believe any of this, by the way, and couldn't do any of this without you, so thanks once again. But here's some more good news. You can download and listen to every single episode of the Fat Burning Man Show for free with 0 outside advertisements, no outside sponsors, and no corporate overlords. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com. I'll give you a second here just to type it in, fatburningman.com. And you'll get all the show notes, transcripts, and video and audio versions for all the past episodes of the Fat Burning Man Show for free. Better yet, enter your email at fatburningman.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I'll even send you a quick start guide so you can take your health into your own hands right now, along with a few of our ridiculously tasty recipes as a special thanks for signing up. Once again, just go to fatburningman.com right now, enter your best email to get your free goodies with a bonus surprise straight to your inbox. This is Abel James signing off. Thank you so much for listening once again, and have a great week.